Barreto for this opportunity to speak here for your grand rounds. I will try to give you a perspective on my recovery as best as I can. My name is Earle and I am a stroke survivor. I am an aerospace engineer for the Raytheon Company. I have 3 United States patents in aerospace. My patent for the part task trainer still trains astronauts and cosmonauts to dock to the International Space Station. I use a turbo communicator eye gaze system to communicate.
Right here are the controls down in here that the astronauts use to control the arm, which is that big, tall device there. It's on the space station, and they practice grabbing one of these gray things on one of the silver posts, and then they grab that, and then they move it, and they practice putting it into the shuttle bay. So they train all that here on the ground, grabbing this and using the arm and using the controls and the switches to put this thing into the space shuttle.
Without breaking it.
Or to take it out. So that's
their bay.
That's what this is, where they train how to use the robotics in the space station.
He has access to.
Let me share with you the events that happened before I was flown here from Plano, Texas. I was on top of the world when this stroke occurred. I had just moved into my corporate apartment. I was away on business and felt ill after waking up at 5 in the morning with burning in my nose and throat. I thought it was just fatigue. I took a shower and noticed that my vision was unclear. I dressed and realized that I could not read my computer emails. I laid myself down on the floor to rest, and when I woke I could not move. My wife did not find me for 27 hours. No one from my company reported me missing, even though I had missed several very important telecoms that day. My wife found me by having our daughter Lindsay call the police and paramedics in Addison, Texas. They broke down the door to my corporate apartment. As I lay on the floor for over 24 hours, it was my desire for self-preservation that got me through. I was not afraid because I knew from the phone calls that my wife would save me. As I lay there, I worried that the coffee pot would catch on fire because I heard it explode and could smell it burning. I never drank the coffee that day. When the paramedics found me, the first thing I heard was, "He's a breather." Once I reached the hospital, they gave me an AIDS test and a touch screen. I heard and understood your staff clearly, but it would take 2 days for the ICU to order an MRI and decide that I had a brainstem stroke. The ICU doctor thought I had encephalitis or West Nile virus. The doctors in Plano told my family for 2 days that I was in a vegetative state. I was completely aware. This ICU doctor had told them what they were seeing was only primal reflexes. My children asked me to look up for yes and close my eyes for no. It was very hard and trying for me. I could not communicate. But as soon as I was strong enough, which was about 72 hours post-event, I blinked. I could finally let them know that I could hear and understand everything. That was our first sign of hope. The Plano doctors did not believe my family. They told my family it was best to deny care because I would not recover or regain cognition. My wife Kathy said they essentially were asking her to starve me to death. Death by starvation. I am glad I did not go to the meeting. Finally, the ICU doctor came in at the insistence of my sister-in-law Debbie to witness my communication. He asked where I lived and what kind of car I owned. After several questions, I heard this doctor say he was a little impressed. Then he said he would check my cognition. He then beat upon my chest 3 times and shook my shoulders. I could not understand why he would do such a thing. Why? I had been answering his questions in a timely manner. Then he said very loudly, as if I were deaf, "Mr. Powdrell." He shook me. It hurt the tubes in my throat, but I could not tell him. He said he had to ask me a high-level math question, and if I was an engineer it would be an easy question. What is the square root of 25? He yelled. I remember thinking this is supposed to be difficult. I am a rocket scientist. So, I blinked 5 blinks. I saved my own life. He told my family. Well, this changes everything. He was correct. It did change everything. I was leaving for Houston Memorial Harmon Neuroscience Institute. The plane to Houston was a Turbo Beach King Air 200. My company and I had developed the flight simulator. I was going home and it felt good. I knew I was a difficult case, but I knew that Herman was my best hope. Once at Herman, the stroke team made me feel that I had my own team. They worked in tandem like a well-orchestrated team. In the mornings they would arrive and assess me. It gave me hope. They were calm and precise. They were led by Dr. Barreto and Dr. Wu. There was a huge question at hand. Quality of life. What could a locked-in patient's life be like? A medical ethical decision. A hard question. My wife and I used a letter board to tell Dr. Barreto that I understood the challenge ahead of me and that as a scientist and as a husband and father I wanted to try a recovery. From that moment on, failure really was not an option. For me or my family together we would begin to unlock locked-in. It would be difficult, but Dr. Barreto convinced Tier Dr. Jeffrey Berliner to take my case for rehabilitation of Tier. So in the blink of an eye, 5 blinks and a wonderful stroke team, my life was saved. I had a chance to recover. Tier was hard work. Dr. Berliner agreed to work with my other rehab physician, Dr. Clark, who has a protocol of brain nutrition that he has developed in his 30 years of working with stroke survivors. Tier and Dr. Berliner and his team began to give me a new life. Ironically, I would be admitted there on the spinal cord floor. This would be my first clue that being locked in really meant that I did not meet the standard treatment plan for a stroke, spinal cord injury, or insurance actuaries. So working at Tier to unlock locked in, I would be inpatient for rehab for 7 months in the first year. I have had 4 admissions in 3 years. There, Katie Boucherlon and Inhale with Dr. Berliner would help me regain head control, rebuild strength, learn to drive my wheelchair. Tier is the place of miracles every day. I learned to operate Tabi. They help my self-preservation.